Hello everyone. The following video is a compilation of a bunch of life-threatening stories in which the author is at risk and in danger. They are the type of stories that would send shivers down your spine, not thanks to the supernatural, but thanks to plausibility. Every single story was narrated with the permission of their respective author. With that out of the way, let's begin. Number 1. This is a story of stalking and harassment done through the phone. This story was segmented and posted by its author in 2 separate Reddit threads. Harassing calls. Hello. I have been receiving phone calls from someone not in my contacts. It started almost 3 years ago. They call. A man in a very childish voice asks if I remember them. They refuse to tell me how they know me, but they do know my name and details, which is disturbing enough. But if I hang up on them, they call back and their mother comes on the phone and she tells me how I've hurt their son. He just wants a friend, etc. When she calls, you can hear her son crying in the background. I've blocked them, but they call back from different numbers. It hasn't happened for a while, but it caused me a huge amount of stress due to the details that they somehow know about me. I do not have social media, so I don't know how they got my number or how they know these things about me. I've tried the police, but the woman that I got to just told me to block the number as they haven't actually threatened me, and I just feel unsafe. So to expand a little bit more on the story, this started about 2 or 3 years back. I had just experienced a terrible breakup and I started receiving these disturbing phone calls. It started simple. The first call I answered and the person on the other end said how much they miss me. Now, I have a very small circle of friends, and I am not on Facebook or on any social site where I update my photos or daily activities. This is important, and I know that the ex I just split up with had nothing to do with the following. Apologies if it's not short. The first call, like I said, was simple. They just said that they miss me. I asked who it was and they said, "It's me, don't you remember?" So I hung up. And they immediately called back, crying, upset I was being mean. The caller was clearly an adult male, but they were talking as though they were a very young child, around 6. I hung up again and they didn't call back. Looking back, I should have blocked the number, but as I mentioned, I just got blindsided by a breakup and I wasn't thinking very well. Then they kept calling. They would call, and if I didn't answer, they left messages saying how pretty I looked with my blue sweater that day, or that they knew how I took my coffee now and said that they would remember it for when we finally went out for a drink together. I blocked the numbers. They would call from another. I answered one day, yelling at them to leave me the fuck alone, and hung up again. When they called back, it wasn't the boy, but his mother. She was very upset. She said that I was hurting her boy by not wanting to play, and you could very clearly hear the boy crying and screaming in the background. At this point, it dawned on me that this wasn't a joke, prank or something. There was something seriously wrong with these people, and they were obviously watching me. For a few weeks following my breakup, I had to live in my car. This entire time, I hardly slept. I was terrified, thinking I would wake up one day and see him standing outside one of my windows. When I finally got a place, he called to congratulate me, and he couldn't wait to come and play. I haven't heard from the people for a year now, but I checked my phone after a very busy workday and I notice 10 missed calls, and I'm terrified to check my voicemail. I've reached out to cops, but they won't do anything since I haven't been explicitly threatened and have been advised to just block the calls. I'm going to change my number, but I'm terrified that the calls will continue even after that, and that will upset them further. I posted this on the advice subreddit, and people have been kind to reach out with advice and tips, but I feel like I'm living a horror movie. Number 2. He was looking back at me through the peephole. Last year I moved to another city after finishing high school. I assessed several college options and I decided on one that would make me move roughly 3 hours. I found an apartment where I would be able to live without roommates, and that was in a safe part of town with reasonable rent. It was close to some attractions in the city, which was an added bonus to me, as it would still allow me to have a reasonable social life. For the first 4 months or so, it was great. There were absolutely no problems or safety concerns of any sort, and I managed to become good friends with a guy who studied at the same college as me. He coincidentally lived around 5 minutes away from me, so we would often hang out at each other's place. One night, just as winter started, he called me over to play video games and hang out. We had a pretty chill night. We drank a few beers and had a few good laughs and enjoyed ourselves. At around 1 a.m., we decided to call it a wrap, and I headed home to my apartment. When I got back home, I decided to head out to the balcony that overlooked the entrance of my building to smoke a cigarette. I vividly remember looking around and seeing absolutely nobody. It was a cold winter night, and it wasn't the weekend, so understandably, everybody was at home. Besides the usual car or two passing by, it was dead quiet. Once I finished my cigarette, I decided to call it a night, and I got ready for bed. I was understandably confused when I heard a short ring on my doorbell. I stood in the center of my room for a solid few seconds as confusion and a little bit of fear set in. I snapped out of it, and I decided to tiptoe to my door and just try and hear if anyone was outside. My immediate thought was that my friend came over to drop off something that I might have forgotten, but I thought to myself that he would have texted me or called. I probably listened for half a minute or so when the person once again rang the doorbell and softly knocked a few times. I was standing still, and I didn't want to make a sound, so that I wouldn't give away the fact that I was at the door. I heard the stranger pacing around the apartment for a few seconds before he stopped. I waited for any sort of noise, but it was quiet. That's when I decided to look at the peephole to see that he hopefully had left. I picked up the cover of the peephole and took a look. My legs pretty much went numb as I saw a hooded figure looking straight into the peephole. He was holding the zipper of his hoodie so as to cover his face. All I could really make out was his forehead and eyes. He must have either heard me lift the cover or my heavy breathing, because right away he moved from the peephole and said, "I know you're at the door." By this point, I was pretty much shivering in fear, but mustered up the courage to say, "I'm calling the cops, man." He laughed and said, "Sure thing, big guy." "Sure thing, big guy." He He proceeded to wipe away the door handle with a sleeve before walking off. I understandably called the police. When they came over, they informed me that it wasn't the only one. He had been doing this for at least a month, and they suspected him of at least one home invasion where a father chased him out of the house. I crashed at my friend's house for around a week or so after this before going back into my apartment. It's been a year and I've never heard of any news about him. He could have been arrested by now, but as far as I know, he hasn't been. I find it more likely that he simply moved to a different area. I'm not sure if he had any violent intent or not, but either way, let's seriously not meet again.
That's very scary. I'm glad nothing more happened. Hopefully this will result in more security around your area, but realistically it will not. Consider taking your security in your own hands. The police are rarely there in the time to save you. If that guy decided to start kicking your door in, how long do you think that would take? One kick or two maybe? You may be surprised how easy it is. Check the screws on your door jam. Make sure they are at least 3-inch case hardened screws. It is a very cheap upgrade if not. You can even get kits from reinforce that door if you so choose. If you can afford a camera to place at your door, I would recommend that too. It may not physically stop an attack, but it does wonders for deterring any funny business. You did good by yelling through the door and reporting it, but I wouldn't rely solely on the police showing up in time.
The apartment complex has installed cameras since this happened, as a few more people reported him. The part that creeps me out was the fact that he wiped his fingerprints from the door. It means that he probably tried to come in as I was smoking outside and I didn't hear him. So this was more malicious than a simple prank or something. I do also wonder just how he knew I was at the door. There was no way for him to know unless he somehow heard the tiniest sounds that I made. Either way, it has been a year or so, and he seemed to move on. The police have absolutely no clue who he is, how old he is, or any other physical traits. The only real physical trait that people described was his eyes.
You're probably right. I couldn't agree with you more. Most likely he simply tried to get in to see if he could find an easy target. I'm super glad you're okay though. I know I wouldn't have acted so clearly and with the head cold. I would have freaked out so much, I'm sure.
Number 3. My psycho friend in middle school. When I was in 6th grade, I had one friend in my new middle school. We'll call her friend A. I could always tell something was off about her, but she seemed sweet enough. We ate lunch together, hung out as much as possible, you know, regular bestie stuff. Well, the whole summer we didn't talk. Come 7th grade, I had a new best friend, friend B, who I had a lot more in common with. Friend A was not happy about this new friendship of mine. Now, I was always hanging out with friend B, but I still tried to be friends with friend A. She wanted to be my only friend. It went downhill really fast. One day, she came up to me randomly during a passing period. She started telling me about this new knife she had gotten, which I didn't think too much of at first, because maybe she was just excited. Well, I was wrong. She proceeded to tell me how she was going to murder me with it, but first she was going to break into my parents' apartment, drown my cats in the bathtub, murder my parents in front of me. I was absolutely in shock. Then she started following me home on her bike after school, trying to run me over and trying to knock me in the road when a car was coming. I just couldn't escape the crazy bitch. I told the school, obviously, and all they did was basically gentle talk her. This isn't okay, sweetie. But as for her trying to basically kill me on my way home, that was off school grounds, so they wanted nothing to do with it. Oh yeah, not to mention how I was the only one who got bitched at by administration. My dad ended up scaring the office staff shitless, so they took care of it finally. One of the only times my dad has cared. But a win is a win. I know this was years ago, and I'm probably being dramatic by still thinking about it to this day. I'm almost 21 now, and I'm writing these lines during the month of January in the year 2024. But that crazy bitch from middle school, let's never fucking meet again. I have scarier experiences, but those wouldn't make very long posts. Story number 4. The man in my backyard. Hi, my name is Anastasia, and a few days ago, something happened that makes me sick. I'm writing these lines during the last days of the year 2023, literally 2 days before this year ends. We moved to an East Coast town about a year ago to be closer to family. So close in fact that my aunt, her wife, and my cousins are only a 10-minute walk from my house. Granted, we are very spaced out and borderline rural despite living about 15 minutes from the outskirts of a big city. I was walking 2 little dachshunds back home from my aunt's house. My mom hates it when I'm alone the majority of the day, so I spend time at her house. And I was genuinely enjoying my time. It was cold but quiet and oddly beautiful. I got home, fed my pups and 2 birds, and FaceTime with a friend. I was talking with them and doing chores, and I was admittedly being loud and giggly when taking out the trash to the cans on the side of my house. I get inside and lay down in bed, still chatting. I get back inside and lay down in bed, still chatting, when my bird starts calling at something. Now, anyone who has owned a parrot knows that they have distinct noises for certain moments. She has been in my family for 76 years, and with me my whole life. So I knew the sound was alarm and intrigue. I brushed it off as her seeing herself in the window reflection and go back to talking to my friend. I get up to get water, and my back is to the sliding glass door, thankfully locked, and my friend has the wind knocked out of him. I'm confused. I think he's hurt. He tells me, "Natsia, go back to your room, now!" I scoff, but then I see it in the camera view. There is a man with his face and hands pressed up against the glass door. He's a middle-aged white guy in a grey pullover and dark pants, and a grin on his face. My friend, ever the best in panic situations, tells me, "Don't look at him, just go to your room." I was shaking so hard. I'm blubbering and decide to lock me and my dogs in my closet. My parrot is still going crazy. English isn't my first language, and it's bad when I'm shocked, so I revert back to my native tongue, which he doesn't know. Luckily, my friend knows to take charge, and he tells me that he'll be over in 10 minutes and calls the police. I'm thinking I can run to my mom's room and find the gun, so if the guy comes in the house, I can blow a quarter-size hole in his chest. I'm debating getting up when I hear tapping on my window. It's low, intentionally creepy, and my stupid dogs start barking. I'm ready to accept my death. I am a teenage girl, home alone, and I'm about to die. Wait, my aunt should about to be leaving for work. I shoot her a quick text. Emmy, da ist ein Mann an meinem Fenster. Bitte, hilf mir. Emmy, da ist ein Mann an meinem Fenster. Bitte, hilf mir. Emmy, there is a man at my window. Please help me. The tapping has stopped, and I think it's over when I realize something that makes my balls drop to my chest. I left the front door unlocked when I took out the trash. This keeps getting worse, and I beg my friend to hurry. The tapping thankfully returns to my window, and I can only close my eyes and hope that someone gets here fast. It feels like an eternity. Crying to another teen who's breaking multiple traffic laws. Never before have I been more grateful to hear another man's voice yelling outside my house at 1 a.m. It was my godsend neighbor. Apparently his pregnant wife was having bad nausea and she went out on the deck. And where it's situated, you can see my whole backyard. She got a bad feeling after seeing the unfamiliar man approach my door and woke her husband to check it out. I'll thank God every day for her, because I think she saved my life. I let my neighbors into my house, and my aunt comes about 4 minutes later, packing a major hit. My friend not long after. I go from home alone to an impromptu house party of concerned people. The police come like 10 minutes later, like they didn't just take 30 minutes to arrive to the scene. What the freak? Is this normal? On the brighter side, my bird wasn't too alerted by this encounter and went back to eating not 5 minutes later, and my dogs were just happy to see people. My friend has been staying the nights with me since. I'm finding it hard to be home alone, despite the fact that an arrest was made. I'm so thankful that my neighbor had such good instincts, and that my aunt and friend were so quick on their feet, because this could have been a lot worse. So, man at my window, let's not meet. Number 5. There is this guy that wants to get closer to us, enter my circle of friends, and he wants to be friends. My name, gender, and age are not important. What's important here is that this didn't happen to me, but to my former co-worker. We don't talk much, but from time to time we send each other messages to catch up. For the sake of anonymity and protection of identities, let's call her Lauren. My workplace is a pretty well-known place, and at that moment we had some free time. So some of the other co-workers decided to look at reviews of our workplace on Facebook for fun. They found a post directly addressing Lauren. It went something like this. Lauren was mean and bullied this customer because of his disability, and he also added that he didn't want anyone to tell Lauren because he was scared of retaliation from her. We knew this was completely untrue, a downright lie, and complete BS, as Lauren is a very nice person and we could never see her doing something like this. We went up to her. We told her about this review and we waited for her reaction. Lauren said that she always knew there was a review about her, but she was never able to see it. Apparently, Lauren almost didn't get hired because of this review. Yes, you heard that right. You read that right. A customer left a review of Lauren because she even worked at our job. We all remarked at how weird and messed up that was. Then she asked to see the review, and that's when she gasped. The name of the person who left that review she had interacted with before. She started telling us that about a year ago she went camping and it had local Wi-Fi, so she got connected to it. While camping, she gets a random message on Facebook. The message was from the same guy who had left the review. The message was something like, "Hey, I saw your phone pop up on the Wi-Fi, and so I thought we could be friends. I live around this area." Lauren was obviously weirded out, as anyone would be, so she basically told him no. She found this extremely hot. He kept messaging her, so she blocked him and thought that was the end of it. She was wrong. So we were talking, trying to put all the pieces together, when Lauren said that she remembered putting in her bio that she always wanted to work at her current job and it was a goal for her. So what we come up with was that this guy must like to cyberstalk girls who came to that camp. He must have checked her profile and saw that she was looking for a job, made a review about how horrible she was as a revenge for blocking him. She must not have been able to look at this review because she had him blocked. So yeah, we were all creeped out at the end. Number 6. He wanted me to drive him to a place that doesn't exist. I'm 34 years old, and I'm from Texas. First off, I'm writing these lines during the middle of the month of January of the year 2024. This week has been hectic. My 3 kids have the flu. The oldest was first. Then my younger 2 caught it. After a visit to the clinic, I was heading to the CVS down the street from our house for their prescriptions. I decided last minute to drop my kids off at home with their dad, so they could rest and I could go inside the store to pick up some Pedialyte. That's Pedialyte, Pedialyte, Pedialyte. I consider our neighborhood to be safe. I've taken walks after dark and never felt afraid. Most of our neighbors are older folks who have lived there over a decade. When I pull up to the CVS, I parked on the side parallel to our street. It's darker on that side, but the entrance is right around the corner and well lit. There was a man standing outside. He walked in front of my car and I could hear him talking, but my music was kind of loud. I figured that he was on his phone or something. No real red flags yet. My husband called me as the man walked back towards the corner adjacent to the entrance. I got out of my car, still on the phone, telling my husband, "Yeah, kiddos have the flu, I'm picking up medicine at the CVS, etc." In a very pleasant voice, the man says to me, "Hey, I got a question for you. You know where the main street is?" Assuming that he is asking for directions or the location of something, I tell him I do. I'm still holding my phone to my ear. It's in a bright pink case, so I'm sure he could see it. Now, this man is standing directly in front of me. There is a pillar and a trash can behind him. Around the corner is a propane cage and a red box against the store wall. Getting past him would put me in arm's reach. Next, he asks for a ride there, to a homeless shelter. It's very cold outside and he doesn't want to freeze. I empathize with him, but I said I couldn't. I offered to buy him gloves and or a blanket and to ask if an employee in the store could assist in finding him a ride. Sweet baby, Jesus! This guy's face instantly changed to pure rage. Then, right back to being pleasant. "Well, you know what happens to homeless people stuck outside. you're going to help me. It's right down the street. You are going to help me. It's right down the street. I'm standing there, unsure what to do. My husband is on the phone asking what's going on. I gently tell the man that I don't feel comfortable doing that and that I have the flu. And in fact I don't. And my husband is on the phone with me. I don't care about the flu. I don't care about the flu. Now he's getting more and more angry and not moving away from my route into the store. I didn't want to turn my back on him, to go back to my car, which was several feet away in the dark. While this guy is glaring at me, I decide to quickly walk past him. I had my mask from the clinic in my jacket pocket in front of me while I moved towards the trash can. He looked disgusted, but kept telling me I need to give him a ride. It's right down the street, he insisted. But I know where that street is, and it's not as close as he says. He tried to guilt me, and his words felt threatening, but he didn't actually threaten me verbally. Once I was around the corner, I rushed into the store straight to the pharmacy. My husband said he's calling the police. He heard the way the man was talking to me and said to stay on the store. My knees were shaking. I'm not usually the type to be so afraid when confronted. When I got to the pharmacy, I interrupted the pharmacist and a customer, apologizing. Then I told them what happened. The pharmacist sent the store manager out. Tall guy with a long beard, looked like he doesn't take crap from anyone. The police had already arrived. The man was told to leave, which he did momentarily. He came back inside the store yelling obscenities and something about me. Now the store manager has told him to get the fuck out. He's trespassing on the property. The cop came back to talk to me and told me that she has arrested him many times. He's loud and likes to yell at people, but he isn't violent. The pharmacists had me hiding behind the screen where they give vaccines and left the half door to the pharmacy cracked open in case I needed to get out of there. The cop had also told me that this guy's first and last name, as did the store manager. Is that normal? The prescriptions are finally filled and I leave the store. The police parked next to my car to keep an eye on me. Oh, and the man refused a ride from the cop to the shelter. Later, I looked him up. His name is unique, so he was easy to find online. Surprise, surprise, he has a long record spanning 3 states and several counties. Tons of public intoxication charges, DWI, urinating in public, assault and battery, and indecent exposure. I also looked up the homeless shelter. Yeah, as I thought, there isn't one where he wanted me to take him, but that area is super sketchy. Earlier today, I went to the corner store across from the CVS and I told my friend, the overnight shift employee, what happened. She kicks him out of the store and calls the police every time she sees him because he yells at and threatens customers. But he always takes off before the police arrive. I know I could have handled that better. I was blindsided by this instant shift from pleasant to filled with rage. Big thank you to the pharmacy team who kept me safe, and the store manager for confronting the creep. They didn't have to do all of that. I'm thankful my husband recognized I was in an unsafe situation over the phone. This man is still out there somewhere in my area.